Hey everybody, welcome to the Blue Chip Podcast by fans for fans. This is your host Cody Potter. How y'all doing? So last night we had a signing for the Commanders, edge rusher Von Miller. He's going to be a little bit of a part-time pass rusher for this team, man. I don't think he's going to be a guy that you're going to see on the field regularly. This is a more of a off-the-field impact, I think, kind of signing. But we said the same thing about guys last year that had a pretty decent impact, man. I know everybody thought Dorrance Armstrong with the contract that he got was going to have a little bit more of an impact, and we ended up getting the impact from other players and ended up leaving in like Dante Fowler Jr. Dante Fowler Jr. had 10 sacks. I don't think we're going to get the 10, 11 sacks like we had with Dante Fowler Jr. from Von Miller at this point in his career. But last year he had a pretty good season, 6 sacks with Buffalo, only about 15 tackles. So, as I say, situational pass rusher, that type of impact and things like that. I don't think we're going to have all the things on the field that, you got from the one-time All-Pro. Just to show you a couple clips as I'm kind of breaking it down, man. Von Miller was an All-Pro back in his day. He suffered some injuries and things like that. So, you're not getting that guy. 15 total tackles, 6 sacks last year. The year before, no sacks, 12 games, 2 tackles, coming off an Achilles injury, man. So, you're talking about a guy who's been in the league for a long time. I mean, drafted in 2011, the Cam Newton draft class, number 2 overall. You're just not getting that player from Von anymore. But when you're looking around the Commanders roster, you're like, where are the sacks coming from? Him having 6 sacks last year is a little bit of a bounce back kind of thing. And as I said, situational pass rush. Because you look at the defense, you have a lot of good horses at the interior position, with Daron Payne, Jerzon Newton. I expect him to take a big leap this year. And then you got, some youth on the edge. You got Dorrance Armstrong, as I was talking about earlier. I think he has a little bit more consistency this year 2 in this system. He played for Dan Quinn in Dallas. He was good against the run, and, you always expect that from Dorrance Armstrong. Dorrance Armstrong is kind of like a 6 to 8 sack a year guy. And you expect a pretty good impact from him just moving forward. But, Von Miller brings something, I think, more to the locker room than anything else. This is an older team. We have a lot of vets that we're kind of relying on for certain things and situational things. Same thing with Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner excelled, but I don't think you're going to get that level of play. Bobby Wagner stayed healthy throughout his whole career, and Bobby Wagner's a one of one. And Von Miller was too in his day. I mean, Von Miller was that guy. There's a reason he's had over $200 million contracts in his career. And he's done it, time and time again. Denver, he was a hell of a player. Buffalo, pretty good player. And there's a reason he was the number 2 overall draft pick back in his day. So it's just going to be some things, moving forward, things like that. I really expect the basis of this defense to be one on the back end. The reason I love Darrell Green. But I think it's going to be the guys like Mikey Sainristil, Marshawn Latimer, Trey Amos, our rookie, Quan Martin. He's going to excel on the back end, things like that. So, you're looking for what can we do up front? You like I said, I already brought up the nose tackles, Daron Payne, things like that. Then we brought in Eddie Goldman, who's going to be a run stopper. Javon Kinlaw, who can play inside, he can play outside. Those guys are more dominating against the run than the pass. So, again, a situational player. Von Miller can come in, have an impact. Javonte Jean-Baptiste, a rookie last year who has all the measurables, all the traits, everything you're looking for. Andre Jones has excelled. He's flashed a couple times on the field. He was a late round or undrafted player, so you're looking for him to see if he can continue to excel. I mean, this year is really about what can we do off the edge situationally. It's going to be a scheme thing. It's just like last year what Cliff Kingsbury had to do on the offensive line, things like that. It's like you're going to have packages. You're going to have things. You're going to get guys on and off the field. It's going to be situational. You're going to keep guys fresh. It's not like you have a horse, man. We don't have the Trey Hendrickson. We don't have the TJ Watt. We don't have those guys. We don't have no Aiden Hutchinson on this team. That's why you're going to look forward to the draft next year, man, in a loaded class at a position that I really, really like, man. I kind of went over it on my last pod. Guys like Derek Moore from Michigan and Danny Dennis Sutton from Penn State, TJ Parker from Clemson, man, he's a stud. And then you got Simmons from Texas, man. Trust me, there's a lot of top-end talent at the edge position. So when you think about guys like, Von Miller coming here, man, he's going to have an impact. He's going to do the things that he does. I expect him to excel, man. Like I expect him to be a pretty good player, man. But this is the guy that I actually think is going to have the biggest front line impact on this team. I think it's going to be Daron Payne. I think Daron Payne has always just been waiting to break loose. He had a pretty good contract year with the Commanders. Had 11 sacks that year. Got re-signed. People talk about him having a down year, but he is always the one getting the double team. He is our most explosive interior defensive lineman. I think Jerzon Newton adds a little bit of the same thing in a little bit different play style. I think Daron Payne does it with power. I think Jerzon Newton does it with technique. And I expect a big year from Daron Payne, man, especially with another guy who's huge in his own right in Javon Kinlaw lining up next to him. So again, it's about getting guys on the field, man. This defense is going to be back end dominant, man, which is something that Dan Quinn and Joe Witt's defenses have been known for. We're gonna find out what this defense has, man. It's gonna be about a rotational thing. The back end is what has always, kind of led the way for this defense as far as things like that. Not saying that when Dan Quinn wasn't in San Francisco, they had horses, man. They had the front line all the way around, man. They had, Nick Bosa, and the guys, man. They traded more guys away off that front line that were high first round picks and things like that, and continued to bring in first round picks to supplement that defensive line, man. So San Francisco had a front. But, even the story with Joe Witt's defense back in Green Bay, it was always back end kind of led with Savage and Jair Alexander and guys like that. And, they had a bunch of guys that they were bringing in rotation to get a bunch of sacks and things like that. So, again, it's going to be about the sum of the parts more so than, the pieces up front. The back end is really going to lead it. We have a good linebacker core, Frankie Louvu. I expect Jordan McGee to have an impact this year, his second year. I think this is a guy that's going to break out a little bit. I think he's the eventual replacement to Bobby Wagner. And again, man, it's really about, what you have on that offense, man. You put all your assets into this team to develop Jayden Daniels. And that's why I wanted to go over this signing, because, I was going to talk about the defense anyway. I'm still going to do some highlights pre-training camp. We start next week. The rookies are coming in this week. We still got to get the Trey Amos deal done, which is something that's a little bit, being held up because of the contractual things that, happen from Higgins being signed in Houston to a fully guaranteed contract. The other player that signed from the second round was a fully guaranteed contract. So you got 30 second rounders right now that aren't under contract. So, I think once one of those chips falls, the rest of them are going to fall right in, and then the second rounders will be in. So I expect Amos to be in soon. It's not the Terry contract situation. They're all pretty, set as far as what they're going to make. It's just about guarantees and the language in the contract. But again, I expect a huge impact out of Trey Amos going forward with this defense, man. And I think this defense really has to find a way to be opportunistic this year. And we'll see what they do in that aspect, man. If they can, dude, it's going to be a feast or famine kind of defense, man. Can you stop the run? Can you get off the field on third downs? That was their Achilles heel last year. I think they've made additions, like I said, with the goal win and, the Kinlaw guys that can stop the run. Daron Payne has always been really good against the run. Jerzon Newton's pretty good against the run, but he's a hell of a pass rusher in his own right from the interior. And I think you can move a lot of these guys around. They're really, really big bodies, but they're pretty explosive athletes too. So I think it's just going to give you a bigger front with more speed coming at the quarterback, man, to create pressure. Like I said, it's going to be schemed up. Same thing that it was with Frankie Louvu last year. Jordan McGee can give you a little bit of pass rush from the middle, from the linebacker position too. So, it's really, like I said, it's the sum of the parts. It's about how can you get pressure on the quarterback, maybe allow one of these D-backs to jump a couple routes. If you get a couple guys getting good pressure, maybe nobody's really right in the face of the quarterback instantly, but you got the whole line getting a good push, just getting the quarterback off his spot and things like that. And now you got the back end that's, Quan Martin, he's a playmaker from the back end. And getting turnovers for this offense, giving Jayden Daniels more opportunities, man. Maybe you can start running away with more games, and you're not doing the comeback thing like Jayden Daniels pretty much thrived with last year, man. That's pretty much what I'm looking at as the hope of this defense for this year. Can they stay healthy? Can they have the impact? Can you have a couple guys step up that from last year's draft class and make an impact on this team? You know, can Kane Milano, you know, step in and kind of play that like hybrid linebacker role on passing downs, because he's very, very good in coverage. He's a X wide receiver, man. So when you watch this guy in coverage, man, he has a really good feel for zones and things like that. Again, it's packages, man. It's about using you guys. It's about getting impact from players, you know, in certain situations. It's what they excel at, putting them in a position to succeed to their strengths. Joe Witt and Dan Quinn are known for that. That's what they do. They're opportunistic defensive coordinators, man. They preach turnovers, man. So maybe we're not the best defense, you know, X's and O's. Maybe we give up quite a bit of yards, you know, over the season. Can you get off the field? Can you make them kick a field goal instead of scoring touchdowns? That was a big thing last year. Last year, teams were running it down our throat. It led to them scoring in the red zone and things like that. Can you improve in the red zone? Can you improve the run game? Can you get off the field on third downs? Can you make them kick field goals instead of touchdowns? And if you can, we have a quarterback in Jaden Daniels who can excel, and we score touchdowns, they kick field goals. That is the formula for winning in this league. So again, I just wanted to break down this Von Miller signing, man. It happened last night, so wanted to get this pod out to you, man. It's going to be a quick, easy one, just to kind of go over where it's at. I still have a defensive preview for training camp coming up, but and this kind of touched on some of the points that I was going to make on there, but I want to highlight a few players, man. Kind of go a little bit deeper with some depth players that I think everybody's thinking are depth players that might have a bigger impact than what we're thinking. A couple veteran and, you know, rookie battles, or second year players that are going to battle with a couple vets in camp. We're going to see where those go as camp goes on, and we'll take it from there, man. But you know, again, I appreciate you guys sticking around for the podcast, man, and checking us out, man. This is the Blue Chip Podcast by fans for fans. Thank you. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and thanks for being here. Peace.